Welcome back to another episode of Roc Boys football. After a long Saturday of watching a bunch of spring games, giving you guys some recaps of my thoughts on them, we are back to the 2022 NFL Draft, taking a look at a first-round mock draft by Tom Fornelli of CBS Sports. Tom Fornelli is one of my favorite guys to listen to read about. He's really smart, watches a lot of college football. I love listening to him on the Cover 3 podcast. So if you guys are looking for another college football podcast to listen to, I would go check out Cover 3. They do an awesome job there. Let's get into the first round. First pick, Aidan Hutchinson to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, really chalky pick, culture change, best film of the draft class. I think Aidan Hutchinson's a really safe, a really good pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is where it gets hairy. We've seen a lot of Travon Walkers. We've seen a lot of Kyle Hamiltons. And we've seen a fair amount of Kayvon Thibodeaux. That's probably where I'm going. That's where I've gone. Most of my mocks I've done for the Detroit Lions. If Aidan Hutchinson isn't there at 2, if Aidan Hutchinson isn't there at 2. Kayvon Thibodeaux is a guy that was the number 1 draft pick for 3 years since he entered in as a true freshman. He was kind of dubbed the first pick for the 2022 draft. I still think he's up there. He definitely fell. I think a lot of players played better than him this year. At the end of the day, Kayvon Thibodeaux still impacts the game at a high level. The draft value is really good. The positional value is really good. I don't have as many concerns about the character narrative that the media seems to have taken hold of. He's a guy who is a 21-year-old kid who is marketing himself, who is one of the best football players in college. I don't blame him for doing what he loves to do. And at the end of the day, he's really, really good at football and is going to impact the game at a high level at a position need for the Detroit Lions. Pick 3, Ahmad Sauce Gardner. I'm warming up to the Sauce Gardner as cornerback 1, just in terms of the safety that he provides. There is not many worlds where I see Ahmad Sauce Gardner not being a 12-year starter at the next level. Do I think he has a ceiling that Derek Stingley does? No, I think that's a common take in the draft community. Derek Stingley's ceiling is crazy high, potentially cornerback number 1. That being said, Sauce Gardner's floor just seems so high. Like I don't see many worlds where he's not an all-pro, a plus cornerback 1 on a team. And so taking a guy that you know is going to hit, you know is going to be really good at 3 makes a lot of sense. Evan Neal going for first tackle off the board. We have him as tackle 3 right now. It goes Charles Cross, Ikem Ekwonu, Evan Neal. I still have concerns about the balance, how he moves the feet. You can't really go wrong with many Alabama offensive linemen. And Alex Leatherwood kind of missed, but there were a lot more questions than answers for Alex Leatherwood as a prospect last year than there is for Evan Neal. He's a very good athlete who I think is just going to keep getting better. Again, these top 3 tackles I see all being 10-plus year guys. I think all 3 of them have the potential to be all pros. I'm talking about Evan Neal, Ekwonu, and Charles Cross. And wherever you decide to take those guys, I'm not too concerned. It makes a lot of sense for the Jets to keep building around Zach Wilson. I think it's a little high to take a wide receiver. I do think with Kyle Hamilton on the board, it would make sense to maybe take a look at him. I know they wanted to get Sauce Gardner at 4 as well. They do need some help on the secondary. But at the end of the day, I think it's just so vitally important to build around your young quarterback. You want to make sure by the time he's getting to his 5th-year option, is he going to be the guy? Zach Wilson still has a lot of question marks on whether he's going to be the guy. Keep building around him, give him some more protection, give him a chance to show you guys as a team that he's going to be the guy. You look at Daniel Jones at the Giants. Like, they just failed to build around him. They chose to make a lot of questionable free agent and draft selections that addressed other positions, and now you have question marks on, is Daniel Jones the guy that we want to build our team around? And you're in this QB purgatory situation where you have to pick up his 5th year, see what he can do this year, and a lot of question marks about Daniel Jones. And I don't think it's question marks about his play as much as, well, it is question marks about his play, but it's because you just didn't surround him with any talent. So it's like, if he was surrounded by talent and he was still playing that bad, you kind of know, okay, it's time to move on. You don't know if it's time to move on because he's been throwing to nobody, can't get protected. A lot of question marks there that they just didn't really find answers to. New York Giants go get Ikem Ekwonu. I like this pick, even though I have Charles Cross as my OT1. I think where the Giants plan on putting Ikem Ekwonu at right tackle makes a lot of sense. Ikem Ekwonu's got some crazy power in his hands. He led PFF's ranks, I think, in high impact blocks. So basically, like pancakes, really high level blocks that impact plays. He's a road grader. Um, I think, yeah, there's still question marks about how he is in pass pro. He didn't grade that well in pass pro, but he's still learning the position. His first year at NC State was playing guard. He kind of kicked out to tackle halfway through the COVID year, I believe. So he's still kind of learning the position, still getting used to playing in that space. But there's a lot of promising, aspects of his game that he's going to be a good tackle in the NFL, especially putting that right tackle. I think that makes a lot of sense. Pick 6, Kenny Pickett's the first quarterback off the board, which is interesting. Kenny Pickett's easily the most NFL-ready quarterback in the class in terms of decision-making, processing, accuracy. Does he have the high ceiling that Malik Willis does? Probably not. I think Malik Willis has a stronger arm. I think Malik Willis is certainly a better athlete. Not necessarily saying Kenny Pickett's bad athlete, but Malik Willis is a phenomenal athlete. One of the best ball carriers in college football, not even just quarterbacks, like ball carriers. Really, really athletic. There's just a lot of question marks about his processing, his accuracy, his ability to put it together at the NFL level. I think there's less question marks about Kenny Pickett. Matt Rule recruited Kenny Pickett at Temple, so I think there's a good shot that maybe Matt Rule still wants to go with Kenny Pickett. I'm sure they're doing their diligence. And at the end of the day, it comes down to, do you want a more NFL-ready guy, or do you want a higher ceiling? And that's kind of, different teams have different approaches when it comes to that. Pick 7, Travon Walker falls. I'm more of a Jermaine Johnson guy, especially in terms of where the Giants want him. I think Travon Walker is a little bit better fit in Atlanta, where they really need to address that run defense. Travon Walker is a guy that has a high floor as well. Really, really good in the run game. Like, tackles can't really move him off the spot. Plays with really good leverage. Has extreme power in his hands. Are you going to take a top 10 pick on a guy that hasn't really shown great film in terms of rushing the passer? Comparing Jermaine Johnson to Travon Walker, Jermaine Johnson showed an elite level to impact the passing game. I think he had 11.5 sacks. He also had like 15.5, 16 tackles for a loss. Like, really impressive stats out of Florida State. But it's interesting because Jermaine Johnson was a guy who transferred from Georgia because he probably wasn't going to play over Travon Walker, which ended up being a great decision because he was the guy at Florida State, dominated the ACC. Travon Walker is a tough one. My concern is, in 3 years at Georgia, he hasn't shown much progression in being able to get after the passer. Yeah, he's got all the physical tools, but when is that going to start coming together? And I get Georgia, there's a lot of guys who can make plays. So you see all those guys: Devonte Wyatt, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, who's not in this class, but Nakobe Dean, Channing Tindall, Quay Walker. Like, they didn't light up the stat sheet because there's 8 playmakers who can make plays. They have to share the wealth. A lot of mouths to feed on that defense. So that is a question mark too. But it's a solid pick. Travon Walker is still a top 15 prospect. Pick 8, Derek Stingley. So after the pro day, kind of what I thought. After the pro day, he's going to rise up the boards. People are going to remember how good he was as a true freshman. Say, okay, he's still an elite athlete. Still translates well to the NFL. Pair him up with AJ Terrell. It's going to be a really good young secondary. I still think the Falcons maybe go Jermaine Johnson here in terms of getting a guy that's going to address the biggest weaknesses on that defense, which are stopping the run, which is getting after the passer. Both 2 metrics of defense that they graded out bottom of the NFL in. And it's hard to have a good defense when you can't get after the passer. It's hard to have a good defense when you can't stop the run. I think Jermaine Johnson would help that a little bit more than Derek Stingley helps the defense. That being said, you guys know I have a really high grade on Derek Stingley, so I'm all right with that pick. Pick 9, Charles Cross. This guy's just going to be a stud left tackle. I mean, in terms of he's the best athlete in the class. Great feet, great technique. I barely gave up a pressure in that heavy air raid Mike Leach offense. He's the most proven pass protector. That's why I have him as my OT1. I get the fits in New York, both the Giants and Jets, is a little bit wonky because they're really drafting a right tackle. But Charles Cross is going to be premier left tackle. I think that's a great pick for Seattle. And now next year, when you're trying to get a quarterback, they have a left tackle that checks all the boxes. Pick 10, Garrett Wilson. I like it. The Jets are building around Zach Wilson. Do I think they need to address the secondary? Sure, I do. But I think it's more important to know that you have a quarterback who is well taken care of in terms of having guys who can protect him in Evan Neal, and now having a true wide receiver 1, which I think Garrett Wilson can be. in the wide receiver room. So I like that pick. Build around your young quarterback. That is the main goal of the New York Jets draft class. Don't like this pick at all. I've seen it a lot. I don't think he's the athlete that the elite linebackers that you would take in the top 15 are. I get Micah Parsons made the Cowboys look really smart for taking a linebacker at 12, but Micah Parsons is different. We saw a different pedigree to Micah Parsons. We saw a way different level of athleticism. I get Devin Lloyd showed that he can do it all. He's got good ball skills in pass coverage, gets his hands on a lot of footballs. He can blitz off the edge. He's a very good sideline to sideline guy. He's a fluid mover, but he's not the athlete Micah Parsons is. He's not going to impact the game like Micah Parsons did. I mean, with a guy like Kyle Hamilton on the board, I just don't see why you're passing Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton's a guy that can do it all. So some question marks there for sure. I don't really love that pick. Pick 12, Trent McDuffie. Still Jermaine Johnson on the board. The Vikings end up going with the cornerback. They've taken a flyer on a couple cornerbacks in the draft class. I do like Trent McDuffie in terms of being really good in zone coverage, having his eyes on the quarterback, being able to explode to the point of attack. He's a good prospect. I think I go with Jermaine Johnson here. I just worry about Trent McDuffie being tested against NFL level talent because it just wasn't there at the Pac-12. When you look at the guys he was having to cover, like Anthony Brown stinks. Who's he throwing to? Micah Pittman? Micah Pittman had to transfer to Florida State. There weren't many wide receiver quarterback combos that tested Trent McDuffie in important ways. So there's still it's not that I don't like Trent McDuffie. I still have a top 15 grade on him, and so I'm okay with the pick. But I just like Jermaine Johnson just a little bit more. And there you go, Jermaine Johnson. They get Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson. That's a good class. Two guys who I think have really high floors. Like, they're both going to be good at the next level. Jermaine Johnson is important to me because he showed he can do it against the NFL level guys. He was really one of the only guys to kind of take it to Ikem Ekwonu when they played NC State. Jermaine Johnson's combination of length, power, being able to convert speed to power. You can win around the edge. He's just a complete guy. I don't think I have him quite over Hutch or Kayvon Thibodeaux, but he's certainly cemented in that edge 3 spot for me. The film Jermaine Johnson put out last year at Florida State was incredible. Pick 14, Jordan Davis. If my brother was on this, he'd be very happy. This makes a lot of sense. I know they just brought Calais Campbell back. Would that change how the Ravens are addressing it? Maybe. But Jordan Davis is a guy that he impacts the game way past the stat sheet. Yeah, he's not going to light it up with sacks or tackles for a loss. But in terms of freeing up linebackers to go make plays, pretty much taking the run. I mean, you put Calais Campbell, Jordan Davis out there, like, you're not running the football on the Baltimore Ravens. Too good inside, takes on blocks really well, is a space eater, 2-gapper. And I am optimistic on the ability to be like, hey, we can teach this guy who's a freak athlete for being 6'6", 341 pounds to rush the passer. Truly am. I'm okay with that pick. I was a little lower on Jordan Davis. Then I saw him test well. Then I go back to watch the film a little bit more. And it's just, I was being a little unfair to him. He's like, oh, are you going to take a guy who just doesn't impact the passing game? A fresh Jordan Davis can impact the passing game, but he just does so much on the first and second down in terms of stopping the run, getting into those third and long situations where you can bring in some more pass rushers and let Odafe cook a little bit. I like that pick a lot. It's growing on me in a big way. Drake London, not my kind of receiver. I made that clear. Have him as my wide receiver 4 after Chris Olave and Jameson Williams. Give Jalen Hurts a big target. I like this pick for a couple of reasons. The position pick. I think I'm going Chris Olave if I'm taking a wide receiver. But the idea is, let's see what Jalen Hurts has. We have 2 first-round picks next year after that Saints trade. If Jalen Hurts can't make it happen with Devonte Smith, with Drake London, kick Jalen Reagor into the slot, Dallas Goedert, and a solid offensive line, if he can't make it happen, it's time to know that you have to go in a different direction with quarterback, and you probably try to use those 2 picks to go up and get Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, one of those top quarterbacks. I like the idea of give Jalen Hurts the tools that he needs to make it happen, and if he can't, then you kind of know you have those questions. Seeing too many teams get into this QB purgatory where they're not sure whether their young quarterback is the guy to build around or not. And it just delays that rebuild. It delays the amount of time that you can get to be a playoff contender, a Super Bowl contender. Malik Willis at 16. Obviously brought in Jameis Winston. I'm very intrigued to see why the Saints wanted to get 2 picks in this first round, instead of next year. I think they're trying to trade up personally. We haven't seen the trade up yet. I think the Saints certainly could be doing it. I really think the Saints are trading up for one of those offensive tackles. Like if the offensive tackle at 9, Charles Cross is still there, I'm calling Seattle up 16, and I believe they have 18, 16 and 19, and saying, what do we need to do to get out there and take Charles Cross? Because Jameis Winston, like they're a team that's ready to win now. That defense is going to be elite. Winston is, I think, a solid quarterback at the next level. I think Winston is good enough to win with the team he has. And so drafting Malik Willis has some question marks, but I do love the upside that Malik Willis brings. And maybe it's just, hey, we're going to put you right behind Jameis Winston. You're going to learn a little bit, and you're going to come in and be our franchise quarterback next. But I think the Saints are too good roster-wise to just throw in the towel with this pick and kind of take a quarterback that's not going to give you any value for the first couple of years. Bernhard Raimann, pick 17, a guy that my brother absolutely loves. He is probably offensive tackle 4 after that tier 1 group of guys. He's a very good athlete. He put out great film at Central Michigan. I think he still needs to work on that frame. We talked about that. I mean, he was playing tight end 2 years ago, 240-pound tight end. So he's still learning to position, but he's a very good, a former tight end, kind of like Lane Johnson, a very good athlete. You continue to fill out that frame, teach him more technique, put on a little bit more size. I think he's going to be an elite tackle. I think he has one of the highest ceilings of the tackle class. Maybe not as high as the 3 tackle at the top, but it's certainly that 4th tackle. Like, I think he's a better prospect than Trevor Penning, quite frankly. I'm a big fan of Bernhard Raimann. I think he'll play right tackle if the Chargers get him and see what he can do from there. You got 2 really young tackles, Rashawn Slater, Bernhard Raimann, to protect Justin Herbert. Devonte Wyatt at 18. This makes a lot of sense. Devonte Wyatt, I think, is a little slept on. I think a lot of people like to talk about Jordan Davis, Travon Walker. Devonte Wyatt might have been that best guy on the defensive line. In terms of that first step quickness, being able to penetrate, get in the backfield, they didn't ask him to do much of that, but he goes to the Senior Bowl, and that's where they asked him to do it. He does it all week to the point where he doesn't even play at the final practice, the final game. He's that good. Again, a guy that just him and Jordan Davis were much better than I think their film and their stat sheet shows because Georgia's defense was so talented. They didn't really ask those defensive linemen to do much in terms of playmaking. That's why Nakobe Dean, Changton, Nakobe Walker were the guys to kind of light up the stat sheet. Love this pick. I think Chris Olave and Mike Thomas would be an awesome wide receiving core. Mike Thomas, more of a bigger body possession guy who can create separations. Why is one of the best. Like peak healthy Mike Thomas is one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in the league. Chris Olave is going to be a great wide receiver too. We talk about this a lot. Chris Olave is a guy you don't have to scheme touches to. You ask him to run any route in the route tree, he's going to do it at a high level. He's going to create separation. He also has that 4.4 speed to kind of get past DBs, take the top off of defenses, maybe open up some more room for guys like Mike Thomas or even Alvin Kamara out of the backfield to work a little bit. I really like that pick. Jameis Winston likes to push the ball downfield. I think Chris Olave can bring a little aspect of that to that offense. The Packers get a little sniped here, right? Teams like the Saints, like the Patriots, and even the Chiefs who could trade up, they all want wide receivers. And so you see London, Olave, Wilson off the board. Packers get a little antsy and they trade up a couple picks to go get Treylon Burks. Now, Treylon Burks is not my kind of wide receiver. I have a lot of question marks about how his game is going to translate to the next level. I think in terms of discussing Chris Olave and Treylon Burks is a guy that doesn't have that full route tree. And he runs like the verticals, the jump ball kind of guy. You can get the ball to him in space, and he's hard to bring down. He's fast, he's big, he's hard to bring down. But he's a guy that I think you really specifically need to scheme him touches. Think about calling plays. How are we going to get Treylon Burks the ball? I think Chris Olave would be a great fit. It's a shame that the Packers get sniped a little bit and can't get him. So they have to settle for Treylon Burks. I'm much more of a fan of go get Jameson Williams, go get a Jahan Dotson, a guy who can create a little bit more separation, create some more explosive plays. I mean, Treylon Burks can create explosive plays, but I just don't think he's a complete wide receiver like a couple other guys are in the class. I completely forgot Kyle Hamilton wasn't on the board anymore. Teams have scared off Hamilton a bit in recent because of his 40 times, but he's an intelligent defender. Yeah, when you watch Kyle Hamilton's film, were you ever concerned about his 40? Because I never was. He has the range to play that cover one. So we had a discussion a couple of videos ago. Can Kyle Hamilton play in the slot? He asked to do it a lot at Notre Dame. I thought he did it at a high level. Do I want him playing in the slot a lot? No. Kyle Hamilton's a guy you can put in the box. He's going to be great in run defense. I think he's a great instinctual safety. I think he's a better version of Derwin James. And you look at what Derwin James brings to that defense in terms of erasing like the elite tight ends we see. I think Kyle Hamilton can do that in a NFL situation or an NFL landscape where you're seeing those jumbo tight ends kind of have a day. Having a guy like Kyle Hamilton, who's the best equipped with the tools to kind of take away those tight ends, I think is worth the pick. I mean, this would be a steal. This would be just as what I would expect for the Patriots to go get Kyle Hamilton at 21. Just sit back, have a stud fall like Mac Jones did last year to 21. You don't even have to trade up for him. I don't see Kyle Hamilton falling out of the top 10 personally. Film's too good. I get you have the concerns about the knee injury, the 40 time, whatever it might be. Too good of a prospect to let fall at 21. Too much of an impact on the game. Pittsburgh Steelers go get Trevor Penning. This makes a lot of sense. I think he's going to play guard. I'm not a Trevor Penning guy. He led the country in penalties, whether they were false starts, holdings, personal fouls. He had 6 personal fouls last year. And, I get it. Offensive line coaches, we want that mean, nasty offensive lineman. But at the end of the day, those kill drives. Personal fouls, 15-yard personal fouls, those kill drives. I don't think he's nearly the NFL-ready offensive lineman that the draft community thinks. People say he dominated the Senior Bowl. I didn't really think so. You see that highlight reel of him hip tossing a guy into Desmond Ritter's legs. That's not a good rep. I don't know why that's getting considered such a good play on him. I think when he goes up and played Iowa State, I thought he looked pretty poor. I didn't think he looked good, and that's huge for a guy like Trevor Penning who's playing FCS talent for most of the year. You have a chance to go up and play really good guys like Will McDonald or Uzurike, and he didn't look that good. And so it's just I have a lot of question marks. Do I think the ceiling's there? Yeah, I think he can be a good offensive lineman, whether it's tackle or guard at the next level. I think he'll be a good guard to start because he does have that nasty. He's really big and really physical. He's a pretty good athlete for being 6'7", 321 pounds. But in terms of being an NFL-ready tackle, major concerns. And then when you're looking at guards, I think I'd rather have Kenyon Green or Zion Johnson over him. A lot of question marks about Trevor Penning. I don't even know if I'm going to include him in the first round of my final mock. I just don't. Kaiir Elam at 23. Cornerback 4 off the board. Kaiir Elam, Andrew Booth. I could go either way with those guys. I think Kaiir Elam's a little bit more stiff than Andrew Booth, but I think he's a little bit more explosive than Andrew Booth and more physical and longer than Andrew Booth. So it's kind of just whatever you want, whatever teams value the most in the system. I think in terms of press man coverage, Kaiir Elam is better. He's got those long arms. He's really physical. He's a little bit stiff. Andrew Booth's a little bit more smooth. I'm not going to go to bat for either one of them. I think both of them are solid late first-round picks. Dallas Cowboys go get Nakobe Dean. Oh, wait, he's not linebacker right off the board because the Commanders took Devin Lloyd at 11. I do like this pick a lot. You get Nakobe Dean, and I think you let Micah Parsons – you give him a little bit more versatility. Nakobe Dean's a guy that, I get it. He's 5'11", 230 pounds. You have question marks about the frame, the length. But just he's a guy like Kyle Hamilton, turn on the film and watch how good he was. He was phenomenal. I get it's easy to be a good linebacker when you're behind Jordan Davis, Devonte Wyatt, Travon Walker. But Nakobe Dean was an absolute freak. He's dripping with instincts. He's a great tackler. He plays way bigger than 230 pounds in terms of taking on offensive linemen inside the box, making plays. Nakobe Dean's one of my favorite linebackers of the class. I have him as my linebacker 1. He's a smart, instinctual football player who's tough and fast. That, he's checking all the boxes of being a good linebacker. Give me Nakobe Dean at 24. It's a position in need. I get Kenyon Green. I get Zion Johnson's there. I think you can get interior offensive linemen later in the round. You could get linebackers later in kind of day 2 as well. But Nakobe Dean's special, I think, in terms of a culture change. He's part of the best defense that we've ever seen in college football. he was the leader of that defense. Give me Nakobe Dean all day at 24. I'm on board. Jameson Williams at 25. As a Bills fan, I do think Andrew Booth probably is the pick rationally, but my heart would love Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams, the speed that he brings, that's one thing that the Bills don't completely have. I think with the emergence of Gabe Davis, who's very good vertically down the field, not necessarily with speed, but with the ball skills, I think he's kind of our vertical threat. And then you have Stephon Diggs, who's just an absolute separation machine. Throwing Jameson Williams, just throwing the speed, I'll be fine with it. As a fan, I want Andrew Booth. Give me Jameson Williams all day. We'll fire it up. Score just 60 points on everybody. We don't even need to play defense. Tennessee Titans go get Kenyon Green. This makes a lot of sense. I bet the Bucks go Zion. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. I think Zion Johnson at 27 is a little bit more what the Bucks want to do. Give me a solid pass protecting guy who can play guard, who can play center. Not necessarily a high impact block maker, but he's just super solid. He's going to do whatever you need him to do. And then Kenyon Green's more of a guy that he played everywhere at Texas A&M, right tackle, left tackle, guards, both guard spots. He's a not high impact guy. And he's going to move guys out of the way and let Derrick Henry get downhill. It just makes a lot of sense. Whether I like Zion Johnson or Kenyon Green better is kind of irrelevant. This is a scheme pick. I think that's what the Tennessee Titans want to do. They want to get downhill with their offensive lineman. Kenyon Green is going to allow them to do that. And then I think the Bucs want more versatility, more solid play out of their interior offensive line, and Zion Johnson is more of that. This makes a lot of sense for both picks. 28, Daxton Hill. You guys know I love Daxton Hill. I think his ability to kind of what I said about Kyle Hamilton, he doesn't have the frame Kyle Hamilton does. Kyle Hamilton's 6'4", 220 pounds. Daxton Hill is probably a more fluid mover, definitely faster, tested faster. But Daxton Hill can do a lot of what we talked about Kyle Hamilton can. He's got great range if you want to play like that cover one center field safety. Can go sideline to sideline with the ball in the air. He's got good ball skills, put 3 interceptions together his last year at Michigan. And he was playing a lot of nickel. In terms of being able to do that as a safety is a great thing. You can walk him up, kind of put him on a slot wide receiver and really be able to try. I mean, we didn't see Daxton Hill lose a lot of reps from that nickel cornerback spot, unless he was trying to cover Jahan Dotson or Jackson Smith-Njigba, who are 2 guys that are going to be first-round picks. I like the pick. I like the prospect. I wish they could have gotten like a Jahan Dotson because I really do think they need to bolster up that wide receiver room. I think their defense is going to be pretty good. I think I'm more worried about giving Aaron Rodgers some talent. They did get Treylon Burks, so I'm all right with Daxton Hill at 28. 29, Andrew Booth, that's a good pick. Position of need, a guy that has a top 25 grade on for us. Getting him at 29 makes a lot of sense. Jahan Dotson. This would be great. This would be a great draft for the Chiefs because they don't need to trade up. They don't need to trade up for a wide receiver. They get Jahan Dotson at 30. A guy that I like a lot in that offense because I think the Chiefs need a little bit more structure. If Chris Olave is there at 19, I'm probably calling the Saints and seeing if I can move up, jump over the Packers, and try to get a wide receiver like Chris Olave because a lot of what Jahan Dotson can do, I think Chris Olave can do at a higher level in terms of creating separation with that full route tree. I think the Chiefs need a little bit more structure to that offense. I think what got the Chiefs in trouble last year is trying to play too much backyard football. Pat Mahomes trying to extend plays, Tyreek Hill kind of running the scramble drills, and yeah, it works. Like that was the best offense in the league. But I think they could afford to have a little bit more structure to that offense with a guy like Jahan Dotson who can create separation on those simple, short, intermediate routes. Pat Mahomes hits them in stride and create explosive plays like that. Now, in terms of Jahan Dotson as a prospect, he's really tough to evaluate because I think you put him in an Alabama offense, you put him in that Ohio State offense. I think he puts up the numbers like Jameson Williams, Chris Olave did. I mean, he put up the numbers at Penn State. But yeah, he was the only guy on that offense. Sean Clifford stinks. Like you had Bryce Young throwing to Jahan Dotson. I think Jahan Dotson is like a 1,400-yard guy. Jahan Dotson's awesome. He's got great ball skills, great vert. He's a complete wide receiver who's just a little bit smaller. 5'11", 178, obviously a little bit small. But in terms of the film, like he's a phenomenal prospect. 31, I would love this. Tyler Linderbaum falling to the Bengals. As a Bengals fan, a new Bengals fan, if it's not the Bills, I want it to be the Bengals. You're getting a guy who's going to impact the game at such a high level. He's one of the best prospects in the draft. He just plays center. You can't find reps that Tyler Linderbaum doesn't win. That's rare for center. Like a lot of times it's just a net. He's a net positive almost every rep. Similarly to like Creed Humphrey, who fell to the end of the second round for the Chiefs, you're getting a guy who's probably going to be an all-pro center maybe year one. He's that good. You have concerns about the weight a little bit. Whatever weight he played at Iowa, let him play at the next level. He's that good. It doesn't matter. Uses leverage extremely well. He's a great athlete working up to linebackers in the run game. He makes the Bengals better immediately. And that's kind of what the Bengals are trying to do, obviously being runners up in the Super Bowl. Final pick, Desmond Ridder to the Lions. This is an interesting conversation. I started looking at the 2023 quarterback class because in my mind, I'm not taking a reach on a quarterback. I think the Lions have a lot of different holes that they need to fix before they go up and get a quarterback. I think you have one more year of Jared Goff, and we had a guy comment like, "Oh, it's a lazy take," and I got to thinking maybe it is. So if you're watching this, I forget who commented it, but saying that the Detroit Lions should just bag it and try to get a 2023 quarterback class, like it made me think a lot. Because there's a lot of teams that have two first-round picks next year, like the Eagles, who will also be vying for those quarterbacks. But you take a look at that quarterback class. You obviously have the crown jewels with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Those guys are going to be dynamite quarterbacks at the next level, probably 1 and 2 overall picks next year. Now, I still think there are 4 or 5 quarterbacks next year that are probably better than any quarterback in this class. Jaron Hall from BYU. Spencer Rattler, who is supposed to be the quarterback 1 this year. I think he's going to get revitalized a little bit. Keaton Slovis obviously going to Pitt. I had a full list. We can pull it up real quick. But there's a lot of guys that I think I took a look at the 2023 class, and it's good. I was kind of putting together just the early quarterback class. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Spencer Rattler. Will Levis is a guy that needs some work. He's got a rocket arm. Anthony Richardson is legitimately has the potential to be Cam Newton. Same body type, same level of athleticism. He just needs to put it together at Florida. Phil Yurkovich, I really like from BC. Hopefully he has a healthy year, shows what he can do. Will Rogers, a guy, Keaton Slovis, 2 guys who are really accurate with the football. And then a couple of sleepers like Devin Leary, quietly at 3,500 yards in that NC State offense. Dylan Gabriel, obviously going to Oklahoma, see what he can do. Like, there are a lot of quarterbacks next year. I'm not saying those guys are all better than the quarterbacks this year, but I just don't love the quarterback class. It might be a little underrated, but it's still not good. You have guys who are like Jaquan Brisker, like Christian Watson, guys that you can get better with who have really, really are going to add a lot of value. I think I'm picking those guys at 32 if I'm the Lions over reaching on a quarterback who you have a lot of question marks about. Anyways, that's a review. I thought we had a lot of good conversation about some of these NFL draft prospects. Tom Fornelli, great mock draft as usual. Appreciate him putting it out. Appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll be back with some more draft content later. You guys subscribe if you like the content. We appreciate it. Talk to y'all later. Peace.